Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a beautiful 21st of May, 2021. Coming up in the Crusty podcast, episode 127. An election call or possible charades, and more buffoonery coming from our federal government. Stick around.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Aye, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthy.
From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast, a Canadian veteran's point of view on political, social, economic issues and life. Here's Crusty.
Well, smack my ass and call me Judy.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 127, Crusty Canuck podcast. Possible election or just charades? We don't know. I was just watching the power play there on CTV there tonight with my wife, and we were discussing the whole issue in regards to what might happen if they call an election. Now, I know I've said before in the show, let's call an election and get these clowns out, right? But there's a lot more to do than just that. You know, let's factor in what's been going on the past year or so. And just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, this podcast has bad language, so listener discretion is advised. Don't say I didn't warn you. Anyhow, carrying on. More of the possible election follies, right? Let's look at all these leaders that have come and gone the past year. Now, let's look at the Conservative leader, Aaron O'Toole. You know, ex-military, you know, did the notional officer training, became an officer in the Air Force, did his thing, you know, trained to be a lawyer, got into politics, yada, 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 typical routine. You know, always got to become a lawyer before you become a politician. That's not written anywhere. You don't have to do that. But that's the usual pathway some of these people have taken. Now, he's also said that he was going to abolish the carbon tax. Right. Because we all know the carbon tax is unfair. There's two of them now on our fuel and home heating and all that good stuff. And, of course, in other parts of the country, you've got your GST and HST alike. Right. So tax, more revenue coming into the government that the government can give away, right? Then he also said, not even a few months ago, how he's not going to abolish the tax, but turn it into a carbon savings account on your behalf. Okay, so 1 minute you want to abolish the tax, and yet you're going to keep it. So let's say if myself or my wife wants to get some green energy windows or green energy this or something stamped green in the name of the environment, there'll be money there on our behalf, right? Right. Okay. So that's a fallacy on its own. Government doesn't need to save money on your behalf. Now, the government did that back during World War II when it came to savings bonds or war bonds, right? You put this money forward. At the end of the war, you'll get it back. Basically, you're supporting the war front, which made sense because you're fighting an evil Imperial Japan and Imperial Germany, you know, with their fascist regimes and Japan's fascist regimes at the time. So that made sense. Now, with this environmental catastrophe that we keep being tossed and thrown down our throats, how is that going to be effective? Because I've said this numerous times in the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, what plans are on the table to help us thwart said environmental catastrophes? Is there implementations in regards to what we can do in our homes? Can we be self-sufficient? Can we generate our own hydroelectricity? Can we generate our own power? I know there's schematics and tons of plans out there online you can find and encyclopedias how to build your own. But then again, a lot of municipal and provincial governments don't like you doing that. They like you relying on the grid. So there's a monopoly either way, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't buy the green mandates that they keep promoting. It doesn't matter if it's Conservative, Liberal, Bloc Québécois, or the NDP. Okay, it's a con, it's a scam, it's another tax grab. And shame on those Conservatives that backed it up. Okay, shame on them, really. You got to do better than that, right? So in a way, that it's going to hurt you in the next federal election if they do call one. Now, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, this is my speculation. I've tooted my horn in regards to my hat toss into the political ring, but I'm just going to sit back and just be a nobody at the moment and just speculate based on all the points that all four of these clowns have promoted in regards to the environment. Okay? That's my take on the Conservatives. Now, they are showing healthy opposition in Parliament. You know, Pierre Poilievre, Kenneth Bergen, right? Michelle Rempel, they've all said some wonderful things on behalf of sane Canadians. And it doesn't matter if you're Conservative or not. They're staying against Bill C-10. Bill C, what was it, 5, the other one? Bill C7, all these other bills that have come and gone in regards to telling us how to live, what to write, what to think, what to see, what to do with our firearms, what not to do with our firearms, all that good stuff. Right? And I'm glad there is opposition in Parliament that is doing something about that too, but I want to see more of these guys out in the streets and the freedom rallies, and I'll be getting to that shortly. But that's my stance on how some of the Conservatives have not really looked after certain fundamentals when it comes to freedom of speech, what have you, too. Now, I know Pierre Poilievre has done some more things. I'm trying to arrange an interview with him later on in the show sometime in the near future, hopefully. If he responds by emails. He gave me a nice response there on my Facebook page, which was good, but we'll have to wait and see when he has the time, right? But I digress. Carrying on again, too, with more of this, these points of these election possibilities. Now, according to Power Play, they might be calling an election, and if they do, we won't hear it until August, and then it'll possibly be a late September or early October thing, kind of like what they had back in 2019, all those mandates. So, to my constituents out there in Battle River and Crowfoot areas, Wainwright, Hannah, all that stuff in Alberta, think about this. Who is going to be the better man for the job? And don't think about party. Don't think about the tradition of voting for this group or voting for that group. Think about people that want to govern, that want to get in there and fight for your benefit. Okay? Think about the people that want to go to work, that want to go to the stores, that want to open everything up, regardless of what they say about the masks or vaccines or not. You can believe what you want in that. I am not denying the fact that this sickness is real. I'm not denying the fact that people have been killed because of this bug. But I'm not going to deny the fact there's been lots of lies handed to us too at the same time. Okay? Especially when you have so-called medical professionals sitting in Parliament and sitting on national television telling you 1 minute to wear 1 mask and then 2 masks or 3, and then telling you to stick your privates in a glory hole for the sake of sexual safety. Okay? We've all heard Dr. Tam talk about that, Patty Haydu, and every other provincial know-it-all when it comes to keeping us safe. Okay? Now, those lockdowns have created a great toll on a lot of people. People forget about the mental health. People forget about the results of non-human contact, isolationism, and all that good stuff. It's not good for your soul, not good for your psyche, and it's not good for your overall physical and mental health. Okay? And as a member of this certain group called, people with PTSD, it's not good either. When you constantly have to walk around with something on your face, when you constantly have to maintain your social distance and always wash your hands at every corner too, because there are people out there that are more willing to enforce it. Okay? And when I look at all these mandates that have come down with these lockdowns and with these justifications for it, there is still an abundance of people and powers that be that still travel freely, make lots of money, and still tell us what to do. So that's something to think about when it comes to an upcoming possible federal election. What do you say?
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Definitely something to think about, folks. Okay, and it doesn't matter what party you affiliate with. Now, I have conservative values, I have libertarian values, I have liberal values. I don't have any NDP or Bloc values, whatever they may be. Okay, I personally believe let people go about their business, do their thing. Okay, this is not the bubonic plague here, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a plague where you get sick and then 2 days later you're dead. Okay, now I understand there are people who have conditions and people have concerns, and rightfully so. Yes, have your concerns. But how many people out there have been witness and been victims of tattletales? People calling in saying, hello, I see some people without masks on. I just would like you to know, please do something about it for my safety and the safety of others. Right? How many people have witnessed that? Right? We've all seen the footage. This past year and a half has been nothing but a wake-up call for a lot of people. And especially yours truly. Okay? Now, at first, I was skeptical about the disease. I was skeptical about the because we weren't given a lot of data, a lot of information on it. There was your token individual sitting in front of a camera, surrounded by the Canadian flag and a big important table in some fucking important building in Ottawa, telling us we must do this and we must do that and not to worry. 2 weeks later, we'll worry. We're going to flatten the curve. Okay? 15 months later, that curve is still on the horizon and what's going on. And every province has had its follies too. Okay? And every province is sat and put different restrictions up and different guidelines, different rules, what's essential, what's not essential. And yet people forget that getting up, going to work, paying your bills is essential, regardless of how you feel about the so-called safety model or not. Okay? Now, I'm dead against unelected officials making any kind of law or mandate for us. It doesn't matter if they're health officials or officials in the CRTC. Okay? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And I'm not saying do not question or do question doctors' authorities. Okay? My own physician, he's told me to keep my wits about me, to wear a mask, whatever. Okay, fine, I'll do it. I don't want to. I really don't fucking want to anymore. And I personally know people in my life that cannot wear one because of the anxiety it causes them. But there's still hard knocks being handed out. There's still tickets. There's still fines. So what's that tell you? And when it comes to, let's say, the next federal election, we have to really, really look at who is actually against it and standing up for the people, rather than standing up for a party or standing up for some kind of mantra or dogma or some kind of ideologue in the name of safety and protection.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Yes, and two places, and gentlemen, check out me on Supercast as well. Link will be in the description. Just follow the green check mark there in the description on YouTube and Podbean. You join Supercast. You get all of my episodes uncensored for $5 a month. That's right, $5 a month gets you all of the Crusty Canuck episodes. Censorship free. So join today. Please help a guy out. I'd like to make this a full-time commitment, ladies and gentlemen. And, let's say if I do run in the next federal election, and, some by grace of whatever gods that are watching us, I may get a seat, then, okay, the podcast will not be as important. But until then, folks, please consider donating today, whether using the Supercast link or donating via PayPal or anywhere else. Please consider donating today. I'd like to make this a full-time commitment, and I need you, my wonderful audience, to make that a reality, too. Let us independent folk get out there and get the words out. Anyway, carrying on again with the possible election call and charades. All four of these leaders have said some wonderful things in regards to helping us along our way, right? Of course, Jagmeet Singh has always pulled the race card because his last press conference basically condemned and chastised anybody doing the freedom marches, calling them white nationalists and white supremacists, right? And here's a guy who comes from a very, very diverse background in BC. I don't care if he's Sikh, I don't care if he's Indian, I don't care what nationality he is. What I care about, he's supposed to representing the working class heroes, right? That was what the NDP's model is supposed to be. And yet he pulls that racist bullshit, just like Nenshi did, right? Oh, they're white nationalists. They don't need to eat. They don't need this. Oh, really? As you sit in your so-called fucking high castle and tell us what we need to do and what we don't need to do. While you still look at your bank account every fucking 2 weeks and there's tons of cash in there. While the rest of us had to struggle. Well done, sirs. What a great example of leadership. Not, right? So when people vote for that kind of garbage, think about the repercussions that are going to happen after you vote for someone like that. Especially someone who gets on national television and says such ridiculous crap. Okay? Honestly, think about that. Here's a guy who was elected. Now, was he elected based on merit? Was he elected based on what he knows, what he can do? Can he really lead? Well, I don't think anyone can lead anything when you constantly pull a race card out and chastise people. Oh, these marchers are nothing but white nationalists. Oh, it's racism. It's racism. Really? Did you really look into it? I don't know about you, but the footage I've seen of a lot of these freedom rallies, there's quite the diverse mix. And if you check out the Rebel, too, what Andrew says, that guy hosts, he's ex-military himself. He was out in Toronto talking to people in the freedom rallies. And he talked to a lot of people from European countries, from Caribbean countries, from Asian countries. And he's talked to a lot of well-diverse individuals. Some were white, some were black, some were brown, some were this color, some were that color. A lot of people on this color spectrum that everybody keeps talking about. And yet they weren't saying anything racist. They weren't out there talking about racism. They're out there talking about personal freedoms to get out and move around, do your things, right? They can still enforce the mask, but you can still open the stores too, right? People can still wash their hands, go in the stores, because if you can go to Costco and Walmart and all these bigger chains, you can still do it, right? And don't hand me this garbage about churches breaking the rules too, right? Regardless of how you feel about religion or not, we all have the right to do it. And I don't care what mosque does this, or what church does that, or what synagogue does this, or what temple here, or what temple there, or what union here, or what the Presbyterians or the United or the Sunni or Shiites do, or what the Orthodox Jews do, or what the non-Orthodox Jews do. Open up places of worship, period. Because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Okay? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And regardless of how many warnings or little scoldings you get, we all see the contradiction and the hypocrisy. Okay? So something to think about there too when it comes to the federal election. Okay? Something to think about there too. I personally know a lot of atheists who are dead against any kind of faith, who are dead against religion for some of the right reasons. But they'll stand by anybody who wants to go to church or to any mosque or any synagogue, right? And when people say, well, what about the notwithstanding clause in these charters, or notwithstanding clause in that? Those notwithstanding clause only make sense if we're being invaded by a foreign army. But everything else should be left the fuck alone and let people do their fucking thing.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And again, carrying on here, ladies and gentlemen, especially with more of these fallacies that all these parties have represented, right? You've heard me ramble on before when they talk about pay raises and talk about benefits and all these great things because they're really working hard for us. The way I feel with them right now, they all deserve absolutely
nothing.
Yeah. And regardless of how I reached out to certain politicians or not to talk into my show, okay, here's the base salary that they all get. Now, if they're not a minister or appointed to something in Parliament, the base salary of every one of these elected officials is roughly anywhere from $183,000 to $185,000 a year. Okay, now, how many people do you know personally who have lost a job that were making anywhere from $55,000 to $65,000 or more a year? Doesn't matter if it's factory or labor or trades or anything for that matter. And all of a sudden, gone because of the pandemic or more restrictions. Okay. Now, while those individuals lost their jobs, lost their abilities to go, those clowns in Parliament gave themselves another raise. Twice. Okay? Twice in the past year. Last April and this April too. Right? And how many times was Parliament prorogued because of the Wee scandal? How many times were things stalled because Justin just didn't feel like coming to work that day? You know what I mean? Now, how many members of the opposition were fighting to get his ass back to work? How many members of Parliament were fighting to get their great leaders back to work? You weren't hearing much from the Liberal Party. Of course, you sure weren't hearing much from the NDP or the Bloc. Now, I know the Bloc has criticized the Liberals quite a bit, but let's look at the dynamic, especially in the episode I did a few days ago with Lieve Blanchette being ever so supportive of Bill C-10, right? I'd like to remind my audience, too, that no matter where you're sitting in the political spectrum in this country, doesn't matter if you're left-leaning or right-leaning or centrist, doesn't matter if you're an anarchist, doesn't matter if you're a communist, doesn't matter if you're a democratic socialist, doesn't matter if you're a pro-democratic, doesn't matter if you're pro-American Republican, it doesn't matter if you're pro-democracy. C-10 is going to affect us all, okay? The bill basically is going to allow the CRTC regulate us and what we say online, what we read online, what we do online. It's the same procedure when you start a radio station or start a TV station. You have to get permission from the CRTC because, the airwaves are ever so, few far in between. You got to get a license to do it. Right? So what is it going to mean for us podcasters and video creators and bloggers and vloggers alike? Doesn't matter if you're on TikTok or YouTube. Doesn't matter if you make music. Doesn't matter if you have the utmost recording equipment and you record things online to sell your music. What regulations are the CRTC going to allow to have? Because the CRTC is not made up of elected officials. They're appointed by whatever government. Okay? And they will toe whatever government line. It doesn't matter if it's conservative or liberal or NDP or Bloc. It doesn't matter. They'll do what they're told. And then they'll turn around and tell us what to do. So you see how that works. So what gets me is that when Yves Blanchette sat there, this law must pass because it'll help Quebecers. Really? Even the hardcore separatists in La Belle Province, it's going to help them too? You know, hardcore separatists that create good music and write some great stories and create some good art? It's going to help them too? Or is it going to put emphasis on just those Quebecers while the rest of Quebecers get nothing? Something to think about, folks. So for this summer, regardless of how hard this year has been, regardless of how terrible circumstances have been out there, and especially my condolences to those people who have lost loved ones to this heinous respiratory infection, my apologies and my sincerest condolences too. What is being done, right? Now let's look at the vaccine procurement. When they sit there and say the vaccines are going to help people, okay, great. Let's look at our friends to the south, my American brothers and sisters out there. Look at the rollout that happened to you guys. Now compare the rollout to us. You're 300 plus million people. Canada's roughly 37 million people. What is our excuse? Of course, it's the procurement board, because it's a board, right? You have a procurement minister, but then you have a board of appointed officials again. Appointed officials. Think about that. So the governing body that looks after broadcasting is made up of appointed officials, and the people that are supposed to get us stuff like machinery, equipment, medical gear, all that good stuff in the name of the federal government, more appointed officials that do what? Right? So when we think about the election, think about the clowns that have called the shots the past year and a half in the name of your safety. And that doesn't matter if it's provincial or federal alike. Now, I'm not saying judge the federal policies and parties based on the performance of the provincial policies and parties. We can deal with the provincial elections later. But let's focus on the federal dogma, the federal quagmire, I guess you can say. Let's focus on the four individuals that have stood in Parliament and yadded and bantered and yadded and bantered. Okay, Mr. O'Toole, Mr. Trudeau, potato boy. Jagmeet Singh, Mr. I'm looking for a racist under every rock. Okay. And, of course, Mr. Yves Blanchette, who wants everything to work for his handful of people in Les Blocs Québécois. Okay? Think about that. Okay? We have a better situation here when it comes to looking to the West as far as I'm concerned. Because I've talked with some great people. I have chatted with some great Native people. I have chatted with some good people on my show. And when I do my Sunday show too, we come up with different ideas and solutions. So I'll say again, especially to my listeners out in the Battle River Crowfoot riding too, who is going to do the job for you? Okay. Now, my wife made up a very good point too about how the Liberals just might sweep something if election's called, let's say, next fall. Okay. Because of all the CERB and CEBA and all the handouts and all the perks and privileges that they proposed and passed in Parliament, lickety-split, for the sake of virtue and for the whole fucking wokeness model. Okay. Think about that, though, too. Let's look at our economy. Where's it going? Okay. Our oil is not going to market as it should. There's more tariffs on our lumber again. Something that Joe Biden said that he wasn't going to do, and yet now it's up to 18%. From what Donald Trump put at 9%. Okay? And also, to buy lumber in this country now, you'd be better off selling crack or moving drugs. It'd probably be a lot cheaper. Now, don't quote me on that, folks. I'm not telling you to go and do that, but I think you get my point. Okay? Now, let's look at dairy production and grain production. Let's look at our agriculture industry here. How is that progressing now, too? Because of the two carbon taxes and other taxes they're going to make shift and throw at you, right? in the name of inflation and, of course, the ever lingering deficit. What's being done about it? Okay. Now, I've said before, I've talked to a representative of this area, and he's a nice guy. He is. He's a switched-on individual, and he's got a blue-collar background, so he knows what it takes to get something done. But then a lot of us haven't really heard from him too much, too. Now, this is not a personal attack. This is not mudslinging. This is just, it's a fact, folks. And to my listeners out there, Canada-wide, and even in Europe and in the United States, please consider that too, right? I'm not saying get involved in our federal election. That'd just be wrong. But take this point of view as well, okay? We've got politicians in this country that really don't give a shit, okay? Like I said, they get a base salary of $183,000 or more, right? Not to mention, if they are actually appointed a minister, that goes up to about maybe $240,000, $260,000, I believe. That's quite a chunk of change to do some mediocre performances, because the past year and a half has proven all four of these parties have committed mediocre performances. Mediocre. Not great, not fantastic, not sexy, not wild, not unique. Bullshit. It's all bullshit. Right? How else do I say it? Are we ever going to get back to a place in Canada where we can have blue-collar people get elected because they want the job? Because they can do the job? Are we going to get back to a place in Canada where parliamentarians are looking after their constituents rather than towing a party line? Right? Something to think about, especially all the people that have been thrown under the bus, whether they're with the Liberal Party or the federal Conservatives or provincial Conservatives in Alberta and Ontario alike. Something to think about, right? How did Derek Sloan know that that individual that gave him $133 was associated with some kind of racial group of some sort? How would he know that? How would he know that? How would I know if someone who gave me $5 recently had an association with the Communist Party or not? How do I know? You don't. But how did said individual or said reporter find that out that brought it to national attention? Something to ponder, right? So there's slime in every corner, regardless if you agree with Mr. Sloan or not. What happened to him was pretty shitty, thrown under the bus by his leader. Okay, same thing with Randy Hillier, standing up in Queen's Park, standing up and saying, what the fuck is going on here? Really? Here's a guy who's been in politics longer than the Fords, yet he had every reason to ask why. Same thing with Mr. Bamber. Enough is enough, right? Even here in Alberta, regardless of how people feel about Kennedy or not, yeah, well, okay, sometimes he did a good job, but he's also caving in to the bureaucracy of these mandates. And that rodeo they had a few weeks back, where everyone made such a big stink about, there was one case, and that case is gone now. That individual still breathing, still kicking, right? So we got to start being brave again. We have to start asking and keep asking the tough questions. So keep going to the freedom rallies. Keep asking the questions. Keep speaking your mind. Because we all remember last year when they had the BLM rallies, especially here in Canada too, not just in the States, they had them here too. People taking a knee, showing solidarity, all this good stuff, right? Were there numerous tickets handed out then? Numerous fines handed out then? Right? No, thank God there was no race riots. Thank God there was no violence. But where were the tickets? Where were the police officers? Were they handing out all these fines and stuff? They've done it at every other freedom rally here, right? Were they handing out tickets and fines at the Palestinian rally in Toronto and Montreal, right? There was some violence going on, yeah. They had the riot cops out in Montreal, of course. But there were no tickets, no fines, right? So which is it, folks, right? We're seeing a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of contradictions when it comes to jurors to trying to serve, to try to protect, to try to keep things safe. So we know it's a lie. I'm not saying the virus is a lie. I'm not saying wearing a mask is good or bad. What I'm saying is that we got to keep trying to find the light in this manufactured darkness. So when it comes to a federal election, we have to think about this really hard. And to my fans in Ontario and Quebec alike, especially if you're in the GTA or the greater Montreal areas, Yes, you might be getting the CERB or CEBA, and I'm not condemning anybody who needed it, by all means. If there's a benefit there to take advantage of, to keep your lights on, to keep your rent paid, your mortgage paid, yes, by all means use it. But those handouts don't last forever. And just like every other student loan, every other government grant, anything that says the government of Alberta or government of Ontario or Manitoba or the federal government of Canada, it comes from the Canadian taxpayer. And the Canadian taxpayer is not working and contributing to the economy and buying goods and services and paying their share of tax. Then where's this revenue going to come from? Oh, that's right. The magic money machine that comes out of Ottawa. That comes from the Royal Canadian Mint. They have people stand there all the time, sitting there rolling and churning and rolling and churning and pressing and diting and rolling and churning. All this money. Yet there's no product coming in or going out. Where's the oil going? Are we actually still selling oil? The Enbridge line, number 5, is being compromised as we speak. And yet, if they allowed Energy East to go through, there wouldn't be that problem now, would there? But of course, the mayor of Montreal at that time was dead against it because Alberta oil is filthy and it's dirty. Meanwhile, he has trucks dumping raw sewage into the St. Lawrence at the same time. Even Yves Blanchette said Alberta oil was terrible and disgusting. But he doesn't mind the equalization because as far as he's concerned, Quebec is entitled to it. But there's a couple of Quebecers that have emailed me recently and told me they haven't seen shit in regards to equalization. So it's basically one little government conglomerate clenching the purse strings of the rest of the country, if you want to see it that way. I could be wrong. Correct me if I am. But it's just, you really got to shake your head and just have yourself a little laugh once in a while.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Yes, if you like and hear what you see, please consider donating too. Check me out on Supercast. Just follow the link in the description there, ladies and gentlemen. You can see a green check mark. Just click on that. Join the Supercast page for $5 a month. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. $5 a month. You get all of my podcasts censorship free. So when they do start cracking down on us independent folk, you can go right to Supercast and grab an episode. I will load it there. I'm also looking at other social media platforms as we speak too, getting this done, getting that done. And please stay tuned every Sunday at 4 p.m. for the Fastball Sunday with myself, Adam Danny Mezei, Chris the Veterans Veritas Semchuk, and Fred Stockman. Us four will sit in a panel. We'll discuss national social issues, dissect it, come up with suggestions, crack jokes, make funny noises, all that good stuff. And please join the conversation by asking us questions at random. And I also added a Twitch stream to that too. So not only can you find us on Facebook and YouTube, anyone out there on Twitch, you can see it on Twitch live every Sunday, 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That is Fastball Sunday. So, and in the future too, I'm working on videos as well. So when I do my podcast, you'll get to see my mug on video at the same time too. It's just a matter of costs and timing and editing and splicing, all that good stuff. But I'm doing it for you because I put a poll up there, my fans, about a month ago on what you'd think if I did videos. And about 56% of you has agreed to seeing my mug on video. So because of you, my fans, I will graciously do that for you. All right, and we're carrying on. More of the possible election or charades. Now, if they do call an election, we won't hear about it probably till about August. But of course, they're going to have a summer break because, all those busy Zoom meetings and everything take its toll on, people with expensive shoes. So, of course, they got to have their 8-week break, right? Or is it 7 weeks? I'm not sure how it works in Parliament. But needless to say, they're probably going to break for the summer sometime soon. So they're going to have to get all their ducks in a row and do what they can to look powerful, to look big. And then I bet you probably at the end of August, they will slap down the date for a fucking election. And honestly, folks, my opinion is this. I think it's about time. Because I've already given you the points from what I've gathered, facts and figures on what Jagmeet Singh did, what Justin did, what Aaron O'Toole did, and of course Yves Blanchette did. And it's really, I don't really see a lot of progression coming out of it. Now, with a conservative government, I can sit there and say, okay, yeah, we'll probably save some more money again, and things probably get done, and the oil will probably be flowing. Okay, but to the Liberal voting base, especially, like I said, my fans in Ontario and Quebec, think about this, okay? To everybody that votes for the Liberals thinking, oh, well, they've given us all these perks and the CERB and the CEBA. They keep giving us handouts. Ooh, brownie points, brownie points. They are going to run out. So think about that too. Okay, put that in perspective. What's going to happen, right? Are you going to vote for what's comfortable? Or are you going to vote what's going to happen in the next 4 years, right? We're all creatures of comfort. I get that. We're all creatures of convenience. It's great to go to the store and grab a jug of milk. It's great to go to the store and grab a pack of smokes and a 2-liter bottle of pop for your mix. It's great to do that convenience, you know? But this past year has compromised that. And it's great to go to your job. It's great to take your kids to school. It's great to take your kids to a ball game or a hockey game. But that was compromised. Now, regardless of what government body has given you any kind of handout, it's going to have its repercussions, folks. And our economy has proven that. So to my Ontario fans and my Quebec fans alike, especially my fans in the East Coast, think about that when it comes to the next federal election. Do you want comfort or do you want democracy? Something to ponder. And we're at the point of the episode, too, where I nominate and give the award of
the Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit.
And, of course, with due consideration for the past 3 days, who I have thought that deserves the Polar Vortex of Bullshit. And I think today is going to go to somebody who is not Canadian, who is not really all together, who's really not, just there. You know what I'm saying? And regardless of how my American listeners might feel about this, some of the people I have exchanged with and all that, I am going to give the Polar Vortex of Bullshit to, wait for it, United States President Joe Biden. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Well, firstly, when he got elected. Now, I'm not condemning his efforts on giving Canadians vaccines. Well done in that, sir. But when you turn around and double the tariff on our softwood lumber, I tell you, Buckeye, that's just not good. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of us Canucks appreciate that because parts of Montana have been giving out free vaccinations to some people in Saskatchewan, which is good. There's a small town in Alaska that's reached out and given some vaccines to citizens of the Yukon, which is good. But in a way, the Canadian Procurement Board has fucked up. I've already given them the award before, so I'm not going to do it again. But my concern is with one of our industries. And Mr. Biden, you just turn around and really put a kibosh to it, too. So, there you go, sir. There's your tries, And to quote, what's that comedian's name? Oh, fuck, I forget his name. Bill Engvall, that's right. Here's your sign, right? No offense, Bill, I didn't mean to steal your joke. But this has been
the Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit.
Well done, Mr. President. Well done. Well earned. Anyway, again, carrying on with more of the charades. And that's what it is. As far as I'm concerned now, it's a charade because I have to put these people under scrutiny. Because like I said earlier in the show with Mr. O'Toole talking about abolishing the carbon tax, saying, okay, no more carbon tax, this is just ridiculous, to turning it into a carbon savings account, so to speak. And of course, Justin standing by it, oh glory, saying sunny ways, or the budget will balance itself. And of course, Yagmeet Singh talking about racism at every corner of the earth, even though he fails to realize that when you look at Parliament, you're seeing a quite diverse mix of individuals. People from Asia, people from Caribbean, people from France, people from Mexico, right? People from all walks of this country. And yet, of course, he says, oh, racism is such a problem in Canada. Well, if it was a problem in Canada, sir, why the fuck did you get elected? Or how did you get elected? Honestly. So think about that. And to every politician out there, too, that thinks the same garbage, too. Give yourself a round of clap and a smack upside the head. And think about what you're saying and think about what you're doing. Okay? Like honestly. Anyway, folks, this has been episode 127 of the Crusty Canuck podcast. You know, a possible election and charades, or more charades, whatever you want to call it. We got to do better when it comes to thinking about who we put in office, ladies and gentlemen, especially these trying times. This year and a half should have really captivated hearts and minds. And I'm seeing unity out there, which is good. So all the members out there listening that have gone to the freedom rallies, well done. To all the people that encourage freedom, encourage people to think for themselves and to question these higher authorities, well done. All right? To all the Chris Guys, to all the Artur Perlowskis, to all the preachers, to all the gospels. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're Muslim, Jewish, Christian. I don't care. To all the people that stand for Canada and all of our peoples. It doesn't matter what color or creed. You know, I want to say thank you to all the people that have weighed in the past week and said some wonderful things. Thank you very much. I want to say hello to all my new friends out there from Britain, too. I've had some emails from Britain. Thank you, gentlemen, for the kind words. And I want to say hello to my fans in Eastern Europe as well. Thank you very much for some of the kind considerations and the thumbs up and some of my posts and what have you. And I want to thank you, all my listeners, who tune into this show every time I put an episode up. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. But we got to keep fighting the good fight, ladies and gentlemen. We got to keep going on. I know I talk a good game, but I want to play a good game too. I've got my skates on, got my gear on. I'm ready to forecheck, and get that puck up to the forwards. All right? But I need you, my listeners, to help me along the way too. So without further ado, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the kind support I've been receiving the past little while, especially in these trying times. And like I say, stay tuned for Sunday, for the Fastball Sunday with myself, Adam Daniel Mezei, Fred Stockman, and Chris the Veterans Veritas Semchuk too. And you find links in their work I'll put in the description as well. Chris has got some great videos. He talks to veterans about some issues, so please check out his channel. Check out Fred Stockman too on his Anchor FM, and keep updated too with Adam Daniel Mezei. You can reach him at mezei.ca. He does his little blog and video series, and he's quite articulate, and he's quite informative. So please, I highly recommend his work too. Check him out. But like I say, folks, keep thinking for yourselves. You know, get out there, do what you got to do. Fight for your jobs. Fight for your lives. You know, we can do it peaceful. We can do it honorably. We don't need to smash businesses and set fire to things. Okay? And let's not buy any more of this race-baiting BS crap. Or this marginalized BS crap, because while they're sitting there talking about marginalization, they are marginalizing all of us and putting us in one category when we are all made up of different categories. You know what I mean? Like I say, folks, I've been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 21st of May, 2021. This weekend, I'll be working a couple of shifts at the store, but nonetheless, I'm going to be looking after some gardening, hopefully when things warm up. Hopefully have some nice produce this year, some potatoes, some corn, some beans, and tomatoes. And I'll be looking forward to a nice harvest. I might make some mead this year, too. I don't know, maybe something for Thanksgiving or something for Christmas. We'll see. But anyhow, like I say, let's do what we can for our loved ones. Look after your neighbors. Look after your friends. Do what you can to help each other out in these trying times. You know, go that extra mile for your neighbor. Drop a few bucks off. Maybe cut some grass for some seniors. Just help some people out the best way you can. All right? Like I say, look after your friends and loved ones. And remember, humanity and merit wins the day. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthy.
This has been another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Stay sane and thank you for listening. From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast.